Hey there folks, welcome back to the Tower Tech. Just doing a quick vlog update. I've been out of action for a good couple of days doing the experimental kind of adding in new components that I'm planning for my major rig overhaul in the other SMA A8 that I've got tucked away in a cupboard, and we're just doing some experimentation with some new types of fittings, some glass tubing, stuff like that. Stuff that I've not tried before in the existing rig, just so that I can really plan that project out properly. And I'll give you a little sneaky taster of what the glass tubing looks like. Expect a whole video on that coming soon. It looks absolutely exquisite with the clear liquid going through it. Actually, if you look at it at certain angles, it's so clear and transparent, almost looks like it's not there when you look at it at certain angles. But that's not the point of this vlog. There's a whole video coming on the glass tubing work that I've done on this, which is going to be really exciting, so look out for that. This is a vlog about what went wrong. There were some problems with the build. It was due to be finished yesterday. I'm here a full 24 hours, there or thereabouts later, with it only just being completed. And as you know, we were putting 16mm glass tubing in. It's the first time I've worked with glass. I did also decide to do a complete deep clean of the system. That's a good thing to kind of annually do, and lots of the water cooling components that I've got in this build are coming up to 3 years old actually, so both the pumps, certainly the reservoirs, the blocks less so because we've changed components out over the years, but some of the core components of these loops are 3 years old. The reservoirs in particular really do get full of crap and dye, and if you're unlucky, algae and stuff like that. We didn't have any of that, but I wanted to put clear liquid in here, which looks nice contrasted next to the blue, so we've got two different colored loops. Clearly where I've had blue running through that loop, it's not as bad as red, but it still leaves some staining inside your component, so I decided to do really deep clean. Done those a number of times before, so I gave myself plenty of time to do that. I knew that was quite a challenge, so started that. Didn't do anything on Saturday. I was out and about traveling a lot for work last week, in London a couple of days staying over. I was exhausted when I got to Saturday, you know, and a house full of children and dogs and puppies. We've got a new puppy, by the way. I might show him in one of the videos. Delightful. Shadow. It's crazy bonkers. But anyway, I digress. Really tired on Saturday. I did do some experimentation with cleaning old blocks. My old 1080 block there, all cleaned out. And again, a video doing that, you know, a video on how to refurbish water cooling blocks. But I was exhausted on Saturday, so I didn't want to get into the thick of doing all of that. So we left it till Sunday. Knew I'd left myself a bit tight on time. I was feeling a lot better Sunday mornings. Did genuinely just leap out of bed and I cracked straight on. 7 o'clock, we got on with it. Deep clean went okay, actually. That was broadly done by lunchtime. Then we got into the glass tubing. Gave myself plenty of time to do all of that. First cut didn't go brilliantly. I guess that's to be expected. It's the first time I've done something like that. Got the knack of it quite quickly after that, actually. And, you know, it's definitely way more of a faff to work with than acrylic or PETG. But, my God, does it look beautiful when there's no going back now. I'm looking at it. You can't see it. It's the PC's just off camera here, and it really does look exquisite compared to the PETG. But a whole faff more to work with, but not actually any. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Actually, it went okay. It's very intolerant to, you know, if it's out by a millimeter, it's out by a millimeter. And again, I had my expectations managed. So nothing wrong with the deep clean, nothing wrong with any of the components. The thermal take fittings which are bizarre fittings where you kind of put a collar on the end of the tubing. That collar goes flat against a fitting that then clamps down, so the fitting doesn't actually go all the way around the tubing. It's quite difficult to describe, but it does make it far easier to get inflexible tubing like glass over it, all of which will become clear in the next video. But it all went fine. There's no one thing I can sit here and say, you know, the tubing was a disaster, it all smashed and there were a load of problems. Do you know what the problem was? The problem was me. I got to about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening. We were in excess of, 13 hours worth of work at that point. This is off the back of a working week and looking after a family and looking after a puppy and the 11 billion other things that I do in my life. And there was clearly a time to just call it a day and stop. And it didn't. I kept going. I put myself under a ton of pressure. I've got my mum coming next weekend, so can't do a big build like that then. I've got my dad coming the weekend after, which are all, great things to do. Love seeing my family, but it's not particularly fun for them to travel to come and see us in the Midlands when I'm sat there doing PC building stuff all weekend. So I put myself under far too much pressure. I don't have a kind of sort of bespoke workspace to do this stuff in. I do it in the kitchen. You will have seen that from the videos. Not particularly helpful for the family to have the kitchen table and kitchen kind of cannibalized for my PC building. So I put myself under this ridiculous level of pressure of it's got to be done today. And we got to a point where we just should have stopped. Really, really very tired. And we started making mistakes, just started doing really stupid things. I did an air test on the system. It's the first time I've done one of those. I've never done an air test before. The logic of which makes complete sense to me, right? So pump in some air, take it to about half a bar of pressure. If it sits at half a bar of pressure and doesn't go down, then you got no leaks, right? If it's airtight, it's watertight. That's not wholly scientifically accurate, but for the purposes of this, it's adequate. Bled the air out, came down to 0 bar. Okay, fine, all the air's come out. The air had not all come out. There's no way all that air had bled out, despite... I don't think I'll be doing air testing again. I'm either going to include this in the vlog of me putting the glass tubing in, or I'll do a separate video on it. It's a new thing to me. The inherent wisdom of which is I'm not convinced there's every chance I've done something wrong, albeit I can't begin to imagine how many ways there are wrong to pump air into your loop and then measure the pressure of which. Well, arguably, maybe I should have opened a fitting at the top and let some of that air out. I mean, it was reading 0 bar. It was effectively saying there was no more pressure in that loop than there is in the outside air. But I can tell you this, when I filled the loop and I pushed water in it was fine while the pump was running. The second I switched that pump off, I have never seen water come back up a reservoir so quickly. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen water come back up a reservoir, right? You fill the loop, you put water in, it goes down, you switch it off, you cycle it a couple of times, there's a gap. The water's gone down because it's pushed air out of the system. You put some more water in, you cycle it, and you keep going until it's full. I filled this loop. The water went down. The second I switched that off, I mean, literally the water rose back up the reservoir like that, and it just spilled out. I mean, it's not a major disaster, right? It's not over any components, not over any GPUs, CPUs, motherboards, RAM, or any, electrical stuff that's not going to play very nicely. But, we're talking 8:15 at this point. Very tired, Michael. It's less than ideal. Okay, so we drain the loop, right? Open all the fittings on the top of the reservoir. We're an intelligent human being. We can probably get our head around what's going on. Fine. Start filling the loop again. I've positioned a different fitting on the top. It's in a slightly different place where I normally have the 2 front fittings at the top of the reservoir open. And you need one to fill water in, one to let air in or out. If there's nowhere for the air to go, you're just building pressure up inside your loop as you push water in. which may or may not have been part of the problem. I don't think it was. Well, I opened a fitting that's immediately in front of where I've got the water coming into the top of the reservoir, and aforementioned spilling out top of reservoir happened again, right? At which point I gave up. I bled the loop. I drained the loop, is what I meant to say. We got the PC in a state to store it overnight. Went to bed, chilled out for a bit, and got up and went to work this morning. Busy day at work, good day at work actually today, but came home. Clearly I've had a bit of time to think about what I was going to do, albeit in the car journey on the way home from work, which is about a 30-minute car journey. Got home and it took me 15 to 20 minutes to sort all those problems out, get the loop filled, get it bled, got the air out of it, and I'm now sat here talking to you. And you could argue I was 15 to 20 minutes away from finishing yesterday. I'm not sure that would have been true if I'd carried on going, to be perfectly honest. I think the more valuable lesson here is when we're really, really tired, when we're not thinking about a problem in a particularly rational way and arguably getting a little emotional, perhaps a little ranty, one might say, it's not you at your best. You're not going to do your best work. You're not going to think about problems rationally and logically. I think I've learned that you need to know when to stop. You need to know when to go and take a breath, get your head above water, and get some rest. And, you know, I've learned that lesson. I'm sure I haven't learned it perfectly, but I had quite a full-on morning at work this morning. There was a bunch of stuff being thrown at me at 1,000 miles an hour. I went and grabbed a friendly face, you know you are, and when I had a coffee, talked the problem through for 30 to 35 minutes. That could be perceived as having been quite lazy, sat there drinking coffee, having a nice chat, but he gave me a bunch of perspective on stuff that perhaps I wouldn't have had. I talked to him about some of his stuff. I've added some value to him, and sometimes, as counterintuitive as it may be, the most productive thing that you can do is stop. I think that's quite philosophical. So there we go, guys. As always, I hope you're really well wherever in the world you are. Please like, share and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one.